If you've ever told yourself things like, I'll never be good enough, I'm not smart enough, I can't do this, it's way beyond my abilities, I'm afraid I'll fail and everyone will laugh at me, then girl, you need to stay right here, because in this video, I'm going to flip your whole world upside down and show you how all of these things are lies. And by the end of this video, you'll start thinking a lot more differently about yourself. Because it's time for us to get rid of those limiting beliefs. It's time for us to rewire our mindset. And it's time for us to be a lot more confident in ourselves. So besties, take out your pens, paper, highlighters, whatever it is that you need, because we are about to turn around. What's up? If you're new here, welcome, bienvenidos to the self-visionary community. And for my A1 day ones, y'all know it's always good to see you back again. I'm Haskiri, an actress from Washington Heights, New York, and I led a TV show all the way in Hollywood, California. And this channel is dedicated to teaching you the lessons I've learned along the way, as well as the many things I wish I had known a lot sooner to help me navigate this thing called life, all in hopes of helping you in yours. Now, let's get back into the video. One of the first things we're gonna need when we are ready to commit to our goals and our dreams in our life is having faith. Because if we don't have faith, then we allow ourselves to entertain the opposite of that, which is fear. And when I say faith, I don't just mean in the religious way. I mean faith in oneself. We must believe in ourselves. But what is fear and why does that consume us? Fear is false evidence appearing real. It's that simple. When we allow ourselves to be driven by fear, it's simply because we don't have the proof that everything is gonna be all right. There's no guarantee that the decisions we make today or the things that we do today are gonna work out in our favor. Think about it. If we are given a 100% succession rate, then our worries go out the window. We no longer find ourselves in a fearful state because there's proof that it works. There's proof that everyone who tries it has succeeded. That's why the saying, it always seems impossible until it's done, rings true. But for many of us entrepreneurs, the dreams and the paths we are choosing to go down statistically have a lower success rate, especially for minorities and people of color. Even more so, those of us who are breaking generational curses and working through traumas. This brings me back to my audition for LaGuardia High School, which is a New York performing arts school. I remember being really excited to get this audition because all I wanted to do was be a part of a school that allowed their students to participate in what they wanted to do after they graduate. And as always, I'm going to be honest, I was all about acting. So I needed some motivation to get me through regular school days. Also, I heard that a bunch of actors went to that school. Y'all, Nicki Minaj even went there. Yes, Miss Onika, Nicki Lewinsky, Nicki the Ninja, Nicki the Boss, Nicki the Harajuku Barbie, the queen of rap. Okay? So there was this part of me, this fearful part that if I didn't get accepted into this school, right, that I wasn't gonna make my dreams come true. So with all of this pressure that I was putting on myself, I realized that the closer I got to the audition, the more nervous and fearful I got. I didn't know anyone personally who went to that school. I was relying on my own knowledge of the process. You see, when you are breaking away from what you've always known your entire life, there will be fear. And that's okay, because having some fear is necessary. I mean, if we didn't have fears, then best believe we'd probably be walking up to wild animals and putting ourselves in danger's way. So sometimes fear comes in to help us out. It's part of our intuition. When we are walking down a block and we get that like gut feeling, uneasy feeling, that's part of our intuition. That's the part that tells us, nah, shorty, this ain't safe. You gotta get the heck up out of here. Yeah, that's when we want fear to come in and alert us. But the thing is, we shouldn't let our fears stop us from chasing our dreams and our goals in life. When it came down to the audition, there was a bunch of terminology that I did not understand, and I was embarrassed to ask because I didn't want to feel stupid. And I'm sure you're sitting there noticing that yourself, that when you face certain situations like this, you avoid asking questions because you don't want others to think less of you. You don't want them to judge you, or you don't want them to make fun of you. And the problem with that is that when we avoid these things, we steer away from our goals. Also, my parents were very supportive, but they had no clue what went into something like this. Like if y'all come from low income neighborhoods or are first generations, you know that your parents are either busy working to make ends meet, or they just don't fully understand what it takes to make your dreams come true. My parents were working regular 9-to-5 jobs, and they also had 2 other kids to attend to, which are my brothers. I'm the middle child. If you're a middle child, say hi. Now, on the other side, I had my Puerto Rican grandmother who would make little smart remarks. She would say things like, "Ay, no hay dinero en eso, vete a cocinar." Or she would just make a bunch of facial expressions. And if you're a Latina, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And the crazy thing is that those words stuck with me, which I'll come back to later on in this video. So me, being this girl from the ghetto with a heavy accent, rocking my hoops, and having a naturally curvy body, I already feared that people were gonna judge me just by looking at me. Now, on top of that, it made it even harder knowing that I wasn't very educated in auditioning. And as first generation and BIPOC, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves because we may fear that the opportunities are hard to come by. So when we do find ourselves in a situation or in front of an opportunity, we put all this pressure on ourselves to make it work because we feel this is the only chance. So I had to memorize a monologue, and they were very specific in what they wanted. At the time, I believe they were asking for two very completely different monologues. They said either classical or contemporary with two contrasting characters. I didn't even know the difference between classical or contemporary at the time. And I definitely was not asking, let alone where to find a monologue that met the requirements for length and to be age appropriate. And the thing is that this really wasn't my first audition. Before this audition, I did book NYC 22. I still wasn't very educated. I didn't have the same training that these other kids had. And of course, the cherry on top is that I started to compare myself because you see, my parents couldn't afford to take me to fancy acting classes like the other kids. So I started to find myself saying things like, maybe I don't belong here. I won't be as good as the other kids. No one will take me seriously because I didn't have the exact same training that they did. I was feeding myself all of these fearful thoughts. I was comparing myself to the other kids. And we all know that comparing yourself is a no-no. Because the moment we allow ourselves to compare to someone else, we stop seeing our full potential. What I should have been saying instead, and what you should be saying to yourself when you find yourself in very similar situations, is the opposite of those things. As my fiance says, flip the coin. I belong here because of my hard work and passion. People will appreciate my authentic approach and raw talent. People will see my unique skills and dedication. Flipping the coin is basically understanding that there is a negative and positive side to the coin, but right in between is the potential for both. So you must decide what side you want to entertain. On the day of the audition, all I could think were fearful thoughts. I was so nervous. My mind couldn't think of anything positive, no matter how hard I was trying. And then I found myself sitting in that waiting room, and I was seeing a bunch of kids coming in and out, celebrating with their parents, telling them how great it went. And that fed more into my fears. And I was at this audition alone, so it's not like I could talk to someone so that they could hype me up right before I go in. And so when it was my turn to go into this room, I stood in front of those 5 or so people and I froze. I couldn't even remember my monologue at all. And yeah, not to toot my own horn, but I have great memory. I remember I started to speak, and then I stopped, and then I apologized, and then I said, can I go back to the top? And they said, sure. I already knew right then and there was no point of return. I couldn't remember not one line from my monologue. And because I had all this fear built in and all these negative thoughts, I was also very ungrounded. I was speeding through my entire audition. Girl, I made up an entire monologue on the spot. Like, it didn't even make sense. I can laugh about it now, but trust me, I was not laughing about it back then. However, this audition was a pivotal part in my journey, and you'll start noticing a lot more pivotal parts in your journey. It taught me the crucial difference between fear and faith, and how much our mindset influences our actions and outcomes. Because you see, when I was home and I was studying, when I allowed myself to see past the fears, I was acing every line over and over again. I was hitting every word and punctuation. I performed it in front of my dad multiple times, and I killed it. I realized that my fear wasn't based on reality, but by the false perceptions of what I thought would come true, and also the lack of faith in myself. When we let our fears control our thoughts, it affects our performance. It affects us to perform at our fullest potential. We stop our mind to see the positive side of things. And we all know that thoughts become things. And the moment those thoughts enter our mind, that's the moment we allow ourselves to be met with defeat. Instead of letting your fears create your outcomes, rely on your hard work and passion. Recognize that your unique background and experiences are your strengths and not your weaknesses. We need to start entertaining the thoughts of things actually going in our favor. Start practicing flipping the coin. For every negative thought, think of 2 positive ones. This way, you can start training your brain to start having a lot more faith and less fear. Now, let's talk courage. When someone lacks courage, they will find themselves being hesitant. When we lack courage, it's because we are afraid to take the first step. Something in us stops us from going for it, from chasing our dreams and our goals. In order for us to have courage, we slowly must start introducing and or doing the things that scare us the most. For instance, having courage could mean speaking up for yourself when you feel someone is trying to bring you down. So when it came down to my grandmother, I had to find the courage in me to tell her that no, she's wrong and that my dreams will come true and that I could get paid doing something like this. Sometimes it is measuring up the ability to leave a certain job or relationship that isn't good for you or your mental health. Sometimes it's having those tough conversations with family and friends. We must learn to be uncomfortable. We must get ourselves out of that comfort spot that we've been in for so long. But if we really think about it, we were already uncomfortable in those spaces because we molded ourselves to please other people. The only way we can change is when we accept the idea that there is a chance that we will fail on our first try. When I auditioned for LaGuardia, I failed, and I failed bad. But I knew that acting was still something I wanted to do. So I looked at my failure as a chance to learn for next time. Because you see, failure is a way for us to learn. It's for us to see what works and doesn't work. But we will never know what works and what doesn't if we don't take that first step. We need to build up that courage to take that leap of faith. We must jump off that cliff into the unknown because you'll see that the moment you jump, the moment you commit, that net is gonna appear. Because anyone who is vulnerable enough to fail and learn for their dreams and their goals, the universe always has their back. If you asked me back then, maybe I would have said, I don't really love to fail. But if you ask me today, oh, I love to fail. Best believe I would rather fail than quit. Because the more that we fail, we continue to build the courage we need to reframe our mindset about failure. Instead of seeing it as a setback, view it as a valuable lesson and a necessary part of the journey. Because it is. Every failure brings you one step closer to success. The key is just to keep moving forward regardless of the outcome. Don't let the fear of failure paralyze you. Let the possibility of learning and growing motivate you. We gotta learn how to love our failures because they are proof, having that faith stepping away from the fear of our progress and resilience. We gotta focus on the process rather than the outcome. Each step you take, no matter how small or uncertain, is a victory within itself. The journey of courage is not about failing because those things are inevitable. And I already speak about the things that are out of our control in previous videos. But we gotta understand that when we are doing something for the very first time, there is a very high chance that we're gonna fail at that. Shoot, even if we do it for the 10th or 20th time, there's gonna be chances where we're gonna fail. But you see, this is when courage kicks in because it's up to us to show up for ourselves and how we're gonna rise up each time we face a certain challenge. Now, number 3, your why. And yes, I know I've touched on this in previous videos, but I know we have a lot of newcomers on here. But y'all, this one right here is something that till this day keeps me going. In fact, recently, my why has given me a newfound motivation, let's just say, especially after facing something that literally took me by surprise earlier this year. My why reminded me why I started this journey in the first place and why I must continue to fight. Because it's not just for me. It's for us Latinas, for minorities, for people of color. It's for our community. It's to create a lot more opportunities for those who sound and look like us. It's to ensure that those who come after us don't face the same challenges that we did. Hence why I have this channel. One day I will talk about what I experienced earlier this year, but for now, since it's still very fresh and new to me, I won't. This is one of the reasons I use myself as an example because I've been where you are now. I've felt the same emotions. I've been betrayed. I felt the confusion and the uncertainty of it all, and also the lack of support. And even to this day, I'm still experiencing new life lessons. And I'm happy that I am. The more I face, the more I can share and help you to try to avoid them. With that being said, when we sit down to figure out our why, we need to get clear on what drives us. What lights that fire inside of us to keep pushing, to keep going regardless of the setbacks? I want you to ask yourself, who are you doing it for? If you succeed, how will it benefit those around you? What would life look like for you and your loved ones? What is your dream in life? Now, if you can't figure these things out, okay, then I'll ask you to go the opposite way and ask yourself, what scares you? What happens if your life stays the exact same? Who does it affect? What is something that you don't want to happen? When I was younger, I remember so vividly that my friends' parents would always make comments towards me and say things like, "Tú vas a ser la primera preñada." And I would sit there and try to figure out why they would say that to me. Was it because I was the curviest one? Was it maybe because of the environment we grew up in? You see, I never really understood this because despite the fact that I came from where I came from in the neighborhood that I grew up in, I still saw a lot more for myself. For them to say that about me at such a young age, that I would be the first to have a baby by 16 or something, something, it baffled me to know that they, whether they were aware of it or not, put a limit to what I was able to accomplish or do with my life without even recognizing my talent. If anything, they should have been uplifting us to do more. But when you grow up in areas like mine, you will see it's hard because everyone is stuck in the same system. Their parents and their parents' grew up in the same way. So it's up to us to break that cycle. You see, I had to constantly keep finding that courage to speak up for myself. And I will tell them what my dreams were. But these moments always stuck with me. From my grandmother to my friends' parents, this is when your why really starts to shine through. At the time, when I was much younger, my why, the reason for me to get up every day and keep trying regardless of all of those setbacks, was because I wanted to prove to them that they were wrong. I wanted to show them that there was way more to me than the limits they put on me. That just because I look a certain way or spoke a certain way, that those things didn't define my abilities. Girl, you have to do the same. Don't allow people to talk down on you, to put their limiting beliefs or their scarcity of not succeeding on what you can do for yourself. Don't let someone who's never even tried it before tell you that you can't do it. Don't carry around their fears. So many things start to change for you when you have that mindset. Our childhood and what we experience have a huge impact on how we see life and the things that we are capable of during pivotal moments in our lives, from our teenage years into adulthood. This is why being aware is important. That's another aspect of our lives that we have to learn to break free from the mold. You'll see that your why will change depending on the stage of life you are in, and that's totally fine. I personally think it's better for your why to constantly keep changing. The moment where you find yourself extremely unmotivated, you want to make sure that you have new reasons to keep pushing and keep going. So it doesn't matter if your why changes as you go on in life, as long as you use that fuel to be persistent towards your goals and your dreams, as long as you use that to build courage, to face your fears and have faith. Once we start using these things as our purpose, we stop being hesitant. We start having more courage to take that first step and eventually start bringing others with us. Your why serves as a reminder for you when you face defeat or what we may perceive as defeat. We need our why to bring us back to the foundation, to remind us why we are doing it to begin with. Our why is our solid ground, what is going to hold you up despite the storms you face. When it came time for me to decide that acting was going to be it, it was because it filled me with so much joy. It was something I saw myself doing not just for the next couple of years, but for as long as I live. And when I envisioned myself helping to provide for my family, I saw acting being a part of that path. When you are finding out your why, I want you to give it your undivided attention. I want you to put your phone on Do Not Disturb, and with everything you write down, I want you to write down an emotion that evokes. I want you to make that connection with yourself. This will get you in tune with your purpose, because we are all put on this earth for a reason. We all have a purpose. Our bodies are like an antenna. We attract what we think. We attract what we put all of our focus on. Energy flows where focus goes. You ever think of someone and then they call? Or have you ever gotten in a car and then noticed the make of that car, like the model, and then you see that same car literally every corner you turn? That's no coincidence. The reason this happens is because you're making yourself a lot more aware of your thoughts and your surroundings. Because it's always been there, but you just never noticed it because you might have been entertaining something else at the time, aka bringing it back to the fear. You're entertaining more of the fear than entertaining the faith. This is why your why is so important. It makes you aware of your reason. It makes you consciously more in line with the things that you want to attract. It helps you see past your struggles and shows you the light at the end of the tunnel. The moment we put aside our fears and we have courage and we remember our why, we start to attract more of what we want in our lives. Your why is literally so important. So when you are trying to figure it out, you got to take it seriously. You'll see how much more you will discover. Last but not least, confidence. Those who lack confidence are those who doubt themselves. They doubt their ability to be good at what they love to do. And honestly, that makes me so sad because you don't even know how confident you are to someone else. There's most likely someone out there who looks at you and says to themselves, wow, They are so beautiful and confident. I'm inspired by them. And here you are beating yourself up. Let's change that. It's time that we change that. I want you to live your best life. Now, confidence is not always about feeling sure of yourself, but about taking steps and actions despite your doubts. It's about trusting that you can learn and grow and improve. When we lack confidence, it's because we lack the knowledge or the skill set needed for what we want to do, which then we become doubtful and ask ourselves, could we even do this or not? But you see, thankfully, you can work on that by repetition, doing something over and over and over again. The more we do it, the better we get at it. Think back to a time where you did something for the very first time and you felt you weren't that good, but as you practiced, you learned a little bit more every single day, and then you saw yourself literally improving, and now you can do that thing with ease. I mean, from the moment we are born, it's not like we just automatically start walking. We get up, we fall, we get up again, we fall, we get up again. Now, I mean, there's people out here sleepwalking. But y'all see what I'm trying to say, right? Like sometimes we forget that we've been here before and we've overcame it. We need to start celebrating our small wins because they help us build our confidence. Every small win leads up to an even bigger win. And y'all, confidence is not about being perfect. It's about being authentic. Embrace your flaws and start recognizing that they make you unique. When I was on set and there were certain words that I didn't really know how to enunciate, I really didn't care because when I thought back at this character, I knew that it made that character a lot more real. That character, Daisy, right here, reflected the type of girls that I grew up around, reflected me. And that's who that character was. It created this character to be just so authentic, and it made a lot of girls around the world feel seen. I mean, your girl is pretty successful, even with my New York, Washington Heights accent. Something I like to do to help me build more confidence, and this may seem a little bit wacky, but it works for me. I have a picture, it's like a Polaroid picture of me when I was younger, and I like to look at it and just have conversations with her, have conversations with my younger self. So I want you to start thinking back at the younger you. What would you have told her if you could? Wouldn't you want to be someone that she could look up to and help guide her? Wouldn't you want to tell her that confidence comes from within and not by materialistic things or the number of followers? I'm sure you would. So treat yourself with love and compassion as you would the younger you. Because girl, you literally have so much potential within you. Believe in that, nurture it, and you're going to see yourself literally flourish. Remember, we got to keep flipping that coin. Turn that negative into a positive. Remind yourself that you belong where you aim to be. And the more we practice, the more that we show up for ourselves, and the more that we see every failure or every setback as a lesson that we could learn from, the more confident we're going to be the next time we show up. All right, that's a wrap for this video. And if you've enjoyed this one, then I'm sure you're going to love this one right here. Bye.